Hello everyone, this is LB3 Point Man. This is my channel LB3 Scouting, and this is a new series that I'm launching that I'm calling Intro to Scouting. Now, a word of warning before we get started. Scouting is a very volatile and personal thing to partake in. It can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be, but no matter what, it is something that will never be perfected. So with that in mind, know that everything that I'm going to tell you is personal. A few people will be helping throughout the series, but mostly things will be my opinion, which times others will tell you is wrong. However, know that I am simply doing my best to share something that I love, and I fully encourage everyone to go on the same journey that I went through that led me here. With that little disclaimer / rant out of the way, which by the way I promised myself I wouldn't rant, but it's way too late for that, so let's just get started. Now after this video, every video except for one is going to be focused on the position group so we can go a little bit more in depth. One episode will be focused on the combine so we can go through the drills and talk about what it means for each position. But first I wanted to make an episode that was more about all the basics. While it is hard to define exactly what this video is going to be about, I thought it was a good idea to get it out of the way first. Now, if we want to start at the beginning, what is scouting? In terms of the NFL draft, scouting is watching American football players play in college and trying to project how they would do when they move on to the NFL. Now, if that sentence was too confusing for you, I recommend going and finding stuff about American football that is a bit more generic first, because that is as simple as we will go. Now to the next question most people may be having: how do we scout these players and find out how they will translate exactly? First off, something that may seem like a cardinal sin to some scouts and people in the league is using cut-ups of players, where some of the kindest people have taken a full game and cut down all of the plays of one specific player to only around 10 minutes, making the job of watching that game for a player much easier and less time consuming. One of the best resources for this is Mark Jarvis's database, which I will link in the description, which is filled with cut-ups for the players in the upcoming 2020 draft. If you're watching after the 2020 draft, I'll link to his Twitter, where he'll probably have an updated one. If you want to watch a player that doesn't have a cut-up, you either have to find a full game and watch that, which is more difficult and much more time-consuming, or you have to wait and hope someone cuts up who you want them to. So generally, it's best to just watch cut-ups, and you can get a lot of information from them. There's really nothing wrong with watching them. Now, what are we watching for on these hypothetical cut-ups, you may be asking? The keyword and word that you'll likely be hearing a lot throughout the series is traits. We watch the footage for traits of players. Now this is where things start to get confusing and complicated, with every position having different things to watch for, people having different opinions about things to watch for, but that's something that we're going to get more into with the position group videos. On top of that, in scouting, there are generally a large amount of terms that people will use that are either meant to convey something simply so that a lot of people understand quickly, or they use the idea that no one will understand them so that the scout or the person using them can feel superior. However, most terms can be taken fairly simply at face value for what they mean. A guy that is a hands catcher more generally is able to extend his arms and use his hands to catch the ball. A guy with fluid or loose hips has a running style where he's able to get side to side and wiggle around a lot. Generally, the term is self-explanatory, but if you don't know one, don't be afraid to ask. Now, in terms of what traits to watch for and how to diagnose them, they'll have to wait until we get to each positional episode, as it would be way too much to cover in one video. However, I think talking about the draft season entails will be something that I can do here. Go through the calendar. At the beginning of the year, it is recommended to focus all of your watching on senior prospects, as third-year players, juniors, redshirt sophomores could return to school and make all of the scouting that you did on them pointless. Towards the end of the season, players begin to declare, which should be when you start watching more underclassmen. Typically a day around mid-January will be the cutoff point when everyone has to declare whether they're going to the draft or going back to school. And then that date leads right up to the AllStar Games, the two main of which are the East-West Shrine Game and the Senior Bowl. Each game requires players to be seniors or graduated by the start of the game, meaning they have to be graduated by the winter before. A lot of players will make this a goal so they can play in the All-Star Game. The first two of the All-Star Games is the Shrine Game, which is generally played a week before the Senior Bowl. Now, the Shrine Game is where players go if they didn't make the cut to get a Senior Bowl invite. So typically, even the top performers from the Shrine Game go towards the latter half of the draft. The Senior Bowl, on the other hand, is the top senior prospects for the upcoming draft, with almost all top senior prospects normally playing in it, as a big performance during the week of the Senior Bowl can be a big stock boost. Several times in the past few years, one or two of the top 5 picks have played in the game, often with the top quarterbacks taken, with this year Justin Herbert at least, and maybe Joe Burrow also playing. The Senior Bowl is a great exhibition of talent and can be worthwhile to even read others' recaps of the weeks of practice, as those can also hold valuable information. The Senior Bowl is a key step for prospects on the way to the draft, and all good scouts should try and watch all of the players that go there, even if that can seem like a tall order with the large rosters. The final stop on the draft trail where most prospects gather together is the Combine. As I said earlier, we'll be doing an entire episode on the Combine, talking about what happens there, what the drills are for, and so forth. but it was always something that needed touched on in this video. As to how it should be used in evaluation, it is a piece of the larger puzzle that is each prospect. How much of the puzzle depends on the prospect and the person evaluating them. My major piece of advice that I'm sure I'll expand on a bit more in the Combine video is to try to have an idea of players' athleticism before the Combine, and use that as a base guideline to judge players' performance. If a player performs much better than you expected, then go watch them again and see what you missed. If a player tests worse than you expected, then go back and watch again and try to figure out why you thought he would perform better. It isn't a perfect system, but can help give a good baseline of how to scout the Combine. The last thing to cover in this video is Pro Days. These are events typically held at a player's school, which allows players who didn't get a Combine invite a chance to perform testing, or if a player couldn't perform or wasn't satisfied with his Combine test, he can redo it here. This, of course, comes with the caveat this is a much more favorable position in a place they are comfortable in, and they almost assuredly run better at the Pro Day than they would have at the Combine. So take Pro Day testing scores with a grain of salt, as they aren't as accurate as official Combine results. This is something we will also touch on in the Combine episode. Now, this video has been kind of rambling and tough to piece together, as there's a lot of stuff that I want to say, but would be way too much to put into one video, and stuff that I want to say for another video. But I think I got out all the main information I wanted to, and if you have any more questions, feel free to post them in the comments, and I will answer you with a comment, or if it is something significant enough, I will answer it in the next video of this series. The key thing to take away from this video and the series is that no one can ever be 100% right in terms of scouting, so don't be afraid to form your own opinions. Obviously, try to use the most sound process possible. Don't ignore analytics just because a guy has an awesome highlight reel. But also, don't feel afraid to admit you were wrong on a player or to take a stand for or against a player when it is against the general consensus. Most of all, just have fun when you're scouting. Even if you want to do this as a job someday, make sure you're always having fun doing it. This has been LB3 of LB3 Scouting. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of their videos in the series. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.